Okay, so this is CPAC Live. You guys are getting a taste for it. We've never had a guest on CPAC Live give out their personal cell phone number, so that was a very intimate moment for us. But I think you know that. What's wrong, Dan? Yeah, there was 1.4 million people, Maj, who have your cell phone number. Could be interesting. So when the whole Trump phenomenon started back in 2015, Dan and I had the good fortune of having a couple of meetings with Donald Trump before he was President Trump. And everyone can imagine walking into that tower, going to that office, which you had seen on TV so many times, and having this experience with this most amazing of people. And I'll just say the one takeaway that I had in the very first meeting was he was talking a lot about politics, but he was mostly asking questions and mostly listening. And it was such a weird thing, because politicians are always spinning you and telling you and talking to you. They got all the answers. They're quick, you know. And he would say to me or to Dan, or he would ask questions. How does that work? Why have they done it this way? Why didn't they do it that way? And then he would listen and have a follow-up. As we would go back and forth to New York, we got to know and work with Corey Lewandowski. And Corey literally started off as like the guy doing everything. I don't know if Corey remembers this. I remember being on my cell phone. We were like writing a trade policy paper, just the two of us who really knew nothing about trade, trying to figure out how to say this. That's how integral he was with this whole idea of Donald Trump running for president and then running for president. Then we had the good fortune of visiting him a couple times in the tower in his really luxurious office building, which kind of looked like a warehouse in the middle of Trump Tower. But Corey deserves great credit, probably more than any other person that was involved in the staff, of pulling this all together and probably making the most political change we've seen in our lifetimes. It's our great honor that he's agreed to fly out here and be with us today, and he's going to take a few of your questions when he's done with our remarks. So Corey Lewandowski, Senior Advisor to the President of the United States and one of his great friends. Come on out, Corey.
Thank you, Matt. You know, it's a pleasure to be here in Green Bay. I was here a couple years ago. I toured the field. Even though I'm a Patriots fan. You guys know what that means? It means I'd never get tired of winning, is what it means. And I learned that from Donald Trump, because if you remember about 4.5 years ago when he sat around on the campaign trail, a lot he said, we're going to have so much winning, you're going to get tired of winning. Well, I can tell you that after almost 600 rallies that we have done on the campaign trail since the time he came down that golden escalator, is there anybody in this room who's tired of winning? No. See, and that's where we are so different from the left. You know, the left, they're really good about giving out consolation prizes, the participation trophies, right? It's what everybody gets now. Well, you came and you had a pretty good game. You got killed 250 to nothing, but we're going to give you a trophy for being here. See, it doesn't work like that in the real world, right? It doesn't work like that when you're going to go out and find a job. Your boss doesn't just say, hey, you know what, it's kind of okay if you just stay home today because you would think about participating from home. We're going to pay you anyways. See, because life's hard. And it's our jobs to educate our children about what lies ahead of them. And I've got 4 kids who range now from 9 to 13 years old, and the only thing that basically they've ever grown up with for the last 6 years is Donald Trump. And it's a pretty amazing experience. I grew up in a place called Lowell, Massachusetts. Ever hear of it? It's one of those places that's called like a shithole town, right? But I grew up there, so I can say that. Blue-collar town, tough town. You fought your way for every single thing that you got there. My grandfather was a union printer for 44 years, and I'm proud of that. But my kids, right? You ask them to do some chores or take the dog out. You've never seen somebody run to the bathroom so fast. I have an 11-year-old twin. Every time I say the dog has to go, I got to go to the bathroom. Bing! Gone. Because they're socialized now in the school systems to realize they have no responsibilities. Hey, it's okay if you're not doing well. Johnny, we're still going to give you the A. Check the box. I go, no, you get an F, right? The dog will wait for you every time because here's where we are, right? Life is hard, and you have to fight for something you believe in. And let me tell you a couple quick stories, and I'll be happy to take some questions. You know, I had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, to spend a lot of time with candidate Trump, President-elect Trump, and ultimately President Trump in a number of different capacities. And you guys, maybe you've heard him be the truth teller he is. Maybe you've read his Twitter account. That's really him, by the way, in case you were wondering. So let me tell you this story. It was my twin's birthday, my 9-year-old twin's birthday. It was a Saturday morning, and before we had a birthday party for him, we were in the car, and I was going up to do a Fox News hit in the car. And the night before, something crazy had happened. I forget what it was, but I had done 3 television shows. I did CNN, MSNBC, and Fox all in the same night. It was a Friday night. We call it running the gauntlet, right? Because it's just bing, bing, bing. And the next morning, I'm in the car, and I'm on the way up to the TV studio, and my phone rings. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and I look down and it says, Donald J. Trump. As I had done thousands of times, I've had the chance to talk to the president. And my kids are in the car, and I drive a Ford F-150 pickup truck. And so I've got the phone on Bluetooth, and he says, Corey. I said, sir, good morning, Mr. President. He says, I saw you on TV last night, and our First Lady saw you on TV, and she thought you were amazing. I said, wow, sir, thank you so much. Such an honor. Tell the First Lady I'm so grateful for her kind remarks. He goes, I watched you. You sucked. You were weak, Lewandowski. Cuomo walked all over you. So I'm trying to, and there were a few other choice words. I'm trying to shut the phone off Bluetooth because my kids are in the truck, right? And he says, and I see you're going to Fox right now. Is that right? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you're going to say the following. Bing, 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 bing. Tells me exactly what to say. So about 20 minutes later, I do an interview with Pete Hegseth. And Pete asked me a couple questions. I say, just like he told me, bing, 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 bing. I walk out and get back in the pickup truck. 3 minutes later, phone rings again. Lewandowski, you're amazing, he says to me. I said, sir, I did exactly what you told me. And I tell you that story because that's who Donald Trump is. He treats everybody the same, right? It doesn't matter who you are. He tells you what he thinks, right? And I think that's refreshing. He doesn't coddle you if you're an old white guy like me or pay you a different type of respect because of anything you are. He just treats everybody the same. And that's what we're supposed to do in this country. And that's what the left doesn't agree with anymore. Now they're telling us we can't criticize Kamala Harris's record because she's a black female. She's the one who stepped into the biggest arena in the world, okay? She chose to get into that arena after she said she believed the women that Joe Biden attacked, supposedly, after she called Joe Biden a racist in principle. And now we're not allowed to question her legislative record because she's a female born to 2 immigrant parents? It's outrageous. But that's the hypocrisy of the left. And so I tell you the story about Donald Trump telling me I sucked, which is he's done so many times. But I tell you that because he has the right to say what he would say to me and the same to everybody else. And when he calls out Kamala Harris as being nasty, all of a sudden they say, ooh, that's a very derogatory thing to say, to call someone nasty. So did anybody see Johnny Jr.'s tweet today? It showed that crooked Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump nasty 4 years ago. But that wasn't derogatory. It was okay because when you're on the left, everything's okay to say about anybody else if you're on the left. If you're on their side, you can say whatever you want with complete impunity. But if you're on the right and you call somebody out for their voting record or because they're a failure or because they don't have the mental acuity to be the leader of the free world, you're being mean to old people. You're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a woman hater. I can promise you Donald Trump doesn't hate women. We know this, okay? What we know is everybody gets treated the same. And that's what we're supposed to do, regardless of everything else. But, you know, I was up here a little earlier today, and I just want to remind you of a couple things. Look, I had the privilege, and it was a privilege, to be the chairman of the Vice Presidential Selection Committee. It was my job to vet the candidates for vice president before we picked our nominee, as Donald Trump was going through the process, and I had the chance to spend a lot of time with all of our great options, and we picked Mike Pence, who I thought was an amazing choice and has been the greatest addition to the Trump team that we've had as part of this administration. Let me tell you the story of how different these two gentlemen are. So growing up in a poor town in Lowell, Massachusetts as a single-parent household, I never thought I would get to meet the President of the United States, let alone get to know him the way I have. I never thought I'd have the chance to go into the White House. But right after the President was elected, I get a phone call, and they said, are you available to come see the President? I said, you bet I am. And I went in, I put on my best clothes, because that's what you do. And I walked into the room outside where the Oval is. There's 2 desks out there. And I'd never stepped through that hallowed doorway where life-changing decisions have been made. Could see the Resolute desk sitting out in front of me. As I looked ahead, the President was behind the Resolute desk looking at me, and Mike Pence was to his right, my far left, sitting in 3 chairs. Mike was on the far left chair, there was an empty chair, and then one next to him. And I'd never walked in that room. But I could see in front of me Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, was sitting behind the Resolute desk. And I thought, like, something special is going to happen. They're going to announce me. Mr. Lewandowski is here. Corey. Trump goes, hey, get the hell in here. That was my intro. And so I step into the Oval Office, and I sit down. And before I even sit down, the Vice President of the United States stands up and he says, Corey, take my chair. I said, sir, I cannot do that. I will sit next to you, but I will not take your chair. And he said, the President said, you know, Corey, you were such a big part of our campaign, and we're so happy. And I said, thank you, sir. And then we talked about the campaign for 20 minutes or half an hour, and I couldn't believe where I was. I looked around, and it's just such an amazing room. And as we sat there, Hope Hicks, who was then our communications director, came in. She sat next to us, and we talked for a long time. And then the Vice President turned to me. As a matter of fact, he was coming to CPAC to speak at a CPAC event in 2017. And he turned to me and he said, would you do me a favor, Corey? And I said, Mr. Vice President, I'll do anything you ask. He said, would you bow your head and pray with me right now? We're going to ask God to give us the strength to go out and lead this country and to lead it with honor and integrity. Would you bow your head? And myself and the President, Hope, bowed our head as the Vice President in the Oval Office, my first trip ever, asked God for his oversight to protect our country and give him the strength to go and deliver a speech that represented this country to the best of his ability. And it was a very, very humbling thing. I'm a practicing Catholic. It was a pretty amazing thing, and we finished, and the Vice President stood up to leave. The President stood up, and he said, Mike, don't you dare go out and screw this up. Hit him on the shoulder and kicked him out of the office. And we have the greatest tag team between Donald Trump and Mike Pence I think this country's ever seen. And I know you guys are going to support the ticket, and I know you guys are going to show up in November and make sure that we win in Wisconsin again and Michigan. But the left is very motivated. Hate is a powerful factor. They hate this president more than they love their country, and it's sad to say, but it's true. It's sad to say that they hate this president more than they love their country, because if they didn't, they'd be supporting him. And look, I didn't vote for Barack Obama, and I didn't support Barack Obama, but I wanted him to be successful because I wanted my country to be successful. That's what it was about. So I'm going to stop with those 2 little stories about the president telling me I sucked, which he does often, and how special and fortunate we are to have such a great combination between Mike Pence and Donald Trump leading our country on a daily basis. And so we've got a brutal election coming up. We're going to hear things that we know not to be true. We're going to see things that we know not to be true. I ask you to put aside all that and just ask yourselves in your hearts of heart, who do you want leading this country? Who do you want to stand up for the men and women in uniform who serve us every day in our armed services? Who do you want to stand on the thin blue line with us, the men and women who serve our police departments? And who do you want to make sure that we've got economic prosperity and security going forward? And I think it's a clear choice. You have an obligation and a duty to not just yourselves, but to the next generation, to send Donald Trump and Mike Pence back to the White House for 4 more years. And with that, I'd love to take a few questions. And I don't want any of these questions like I had in Congress. If you're going to pull a Jerry Nadler on me, buddy, okay? I did a number on that guy, so don't give me the Jerry Nadler questions.
Right.
Go ahead.
Thank you for your service to our country and helping our president. Early on in the election of our president, the fake news media decided to put out a narrative of Russian collusion. How did you navigate the Russian collusion hoax for over 2 years, and how did it affect the president?
You know, it was amazing because I testified 6 times in front of Congress about the fake Russia collusion narrative. My final time in front of Jerry Nadler's committee, which was a very public testimony. And I remember it. It was a long day testifying in front of Congress because you're mentally just exhausted because these guys are just beating you down. They're calling you a liar and a thief and impugning your reputation. And I finished testifying, and I remember President Trump was on the West Coast. And as soon as I was done testifying, I called him. And he said, you know, Corey, you did a great job. And I said, sir, I'm exhausted. Like, I can't do this. I'm tired, right? My family's been through enough. I can't do it. He says, what, are you going to go sit in the corner like a baby and suck your thumb? Get out there and fight, Lewandowski. Because that's what this guy does. He never stops fighting, okay? I've seen this from every friend of mine who has been what we call the body guy, the guy who stands next to the president, whether it's Keith Schiller or Jordan Karam or Johnny Mack, whoever it is. They all tell me this. He wakes up every day and says, who are we fighting for today? And almost every single day, the answer is the same. America. It's called America First. Not America alone, but we're going to put America first. And so, my only ability to fight is because I know at the end of the day, no matter how many slings and arrows I've taken a lot, my family's taken a lot, and it has cost us financially, you know, a fortune to go through that hell. Whatever I've done, he's done 100 times over. And he wakes up and takes it every single day more than any human being could ever have imagined. So it's been a true privilege to work and to fight for the president every day. And I'll take one more question maybe if we got time. Sorry, she was much better looking than you. Can you say that in Wisconsin? I'm not sure.
Hi there. I've seen a lot of really wonderful Trump campaign advertisements that are not being allowed on Facebook. People are sharing them through private messenger. What is being done to get those really awesome campaign messages out there? I think they're great and might help my friends and families that are suffering with Trump derangement syndrome. Because they're
You've got
very
some of those
good.
too, huh?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I've got a couple of family members that we don't speak anymore. Hey, cut down on my Thanksgiving dinner. It's fine, right? It's perfectly fine, actually. And they were my wife's family, so I really don't care that much, to be honest with you. Look, the truth is, the social media world, and by extension, the high-tech world in California, does not want this president to be successful. You know, I'm sure you've heard, who the #1 decision maker is for posts that go to Twitter in the country. Everyone know who this person is? Kamala Harris's former press secretary. Fact. Determines what content can and cannot be posted to the Twitter account. And in the last month, Donnie Jr. had posted an account to his website about a doctor on the front line who said, hey, we've got this product that seems to be doing pretty well fighting COVID-19, or what I call the Chinese Wuhan virus, right? They banned his Twitter account. They shut him down for 2 days for posting that frontline physician to talk about the effects of this drug. Can you imagine that? By the same token, Donald Trump calls it the Chinese Wuhan virus, the same exact language the New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN has called it since day one. They go, boy, he's a racist, right? Because that's what fits their narrative. So as it relates to your specific question, I can tell you we have a fight on our hands with social media. We have a fight on our hands knowing that the content that they are controlling every day is only controlled on one side. Never, ever, ever do we see the left being banned for posting the most crazy, hyperbolic information that you have ever seen in your life. As long as it's part of the Trump derangement syndrome, it gets posted, retweeted, and then picked up on Don Lemon's show every day. Okay, so I'll give you a last question, then I'm going to bring everyone back and thank everyone for being here.
Okay, the question that I have for you is what, if anything, can you tell us about the progress that Bill Barr and Bull Durham are making to go after the people that perpetrated this fraud on our country and our president?
It's a great question. Look, today, did anyone see this today? Finally, Bill Barr referenced this last night in his Hannity interview today. A former FBI agent, attorney, actually pled guilty to a crime. It's the first time these guys have actually been charged. It is the first step in a step of many. Let me tell you something. We all know the names now, right? The Lovers, Strzok and Page, the Lovebirds who had the insurance policy, right? We know McCabe and Comey. Andy McCabe became the acting director of the FBI in May of 2017, the day that Donald Trump fired James Comey. On that exact day, he had to testify under oath about what he knew about the FISA court abuses. And on 3 separate occasions, we know he lied under oath. In the real world, we call that perjury, okay? He was the acting director of the FBI. There was a criminal referral sent over, disappeared, right? We know these guys spied on Corey Lewandowski, Carter Page, Donnie Jr., Kimberly, Jared, Eric, the president. We know the whole thing. And when the president said, my wires were tapped, the media, you have no proof of this. 3 years later, we know what they were doing. We know they lied to the FISA court. We know they spied on American citizens on U.S. soil, a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment because they didn't like our politics. That's a fact. That's a fact. And just think for 1 second, if we as the incumbent presidential campaign did that to Kamala Harris, just for 1 second, if we decided we're going to use the FISA court and we're going to spy on your campaign because we don't like your politics, it would be the biggest scandal in 100 years and we would be in jail. It would be called treason. But because they did it to us and Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, we were never supposed to find out about it. It has been the greatest political cover-up in our nation's history. It makes Watergate look like baby talk, okay? What they did to us was they tried to overthrow a duly elected president. They tried to remove him from office and jail us because of our political beliefs. That's what happens in a third-rate dictatorship. And it is only because of Donald Trump's success at the ballot box, because of what Wisconsin did to help us get there, that we have been able to uncover this. And look, I cannot be more clear about this. I want to see these guys kick down James Comey's door and walk him out in handcuffs, what we call the perp walk. I want to see it happen, and I want to see him go to jail. So listen, guys, I want to thank you so very much for being here. It has been my honor to spend some time with you this afternoon and a little earlier today. I'm going to bring Matt back out. We're going to close this event out. For everything that you have done on behalf of my family, all the people of the Trump campaign, all the people on the Trump train, all the people who are fighting for our freedoms, our economic security, and our way of life, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys very, very much.